All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm delighted, I'm humbled, and might I say, buoyed by your recorded applause. It is such a pleasure to be with you on a Thursday. This is a live show. I know, It's very exciting. We do the show live. 2 to 4 in the East and 11 to 1 in the West. We start a few minutes after the top of the hour, but then we continue a few minutes after the end of the show. So you get a full 2 hours. We deliver, is my point. So I'm very excited to have Kim here.
Girl, you just woo.
Kim is the rock of this show.
Kim, how are you?
Yes. And Tony is here, who is...
Thanks, Tony.
He's the rock of this show. That's
On Mondays and Tuesdays.
Yeah. And, of course, there's me. And I am the rock of this show.
I blame you.
Yeah, it is my fault for all that is the mess that is this show. We have quite the show today, and finally a chance to check in with America's favorite former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney, and the best legal analyst in the English-speaking world. I'm talking about David Katz.
They are kissing my ass.
Yes, it's exciting. Hello, everyone. It is Vicky's birthday. Happy birthday, Vicky, says Jim Slayton. Well, Vicky shares a birthday with someone on our show.
What?
She's sort of on our show by association. It is Julia's birthday, Kim's daughter. She is 16 years old.
Yeah. And happy birthday, Vicky. Happy birthday, everybody.
Yeah, happy birthday, Vicky. Truly, happy birthday, Vicky.
Mm-hmm.
If you could only say happy birthday to one person, and it had to be Vicky or your daughter, who would it be?
Oh, that's a hard one. I might just go Harry Potter. Today is also Harry Potter's birthday.
Oh, that is terrific. I love knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
This is the day that Harry Potter, I'm not, you're saying the actor? You're saying Daniel Radcliffe?
The character in the story.
Oh, he has a birthday. I see.
Yeah, he does. And it is today. Yeah.
A toast to all of you who are having a birthday today with my Coachella Valley coffee. You'll hear more about it later in the show, but it is delicioso. I love it. And it's quite, and if you have some at home, tea or coffee, maybe you do the cold brew or you do the iced tea, whatever you got going on. Cheers to you, man. You can take it on in with me, baby. I'll tell you what. It is Julia's birthday today. My darling Courtney is here. She, good morning and afternoon, Mark Thompson Show crew from Jim Eaton. Thank you, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
You're an OG, and we love having you touch base with us. Courtney is here, and she wanted to wish a happy birthday to Julia.
Oh, thanks,
And-
Courtney.
Of course. Happy birthday, Julia.
Yay.
Yeah, very, very cool.
She
And
has her driver's permit now, so she's cruising around.
16
Yeah.
years old. Yeah,
That's
it's very
exciting.
exciting. I think
Yeah.
that is exciting. It's an exciting age, you know.
Yeah, it is.
It's an extreme loss of control for me in the passenger seat, let me tell you. I'm not like
That
it.
makes two of us.
Yeah, you want to talk about extreme loss of control. In our house, it is not happy. I wanted to mention that maybe we could send Julia something from the merch store.
Yeah.
The merch store is on fire right now, doing really
Yeah, it's
well.
on fire. And
What is the thing that, you know, it's funny, you know, Courtney sends notes back
Yeah,
to everybody who
everybody.
orders merch from our site, because
Courtney,
Courtney
that's
created
sweet.
these t-shirts that you can see. These are
Yeah.
the sort of themed t-shirts. What do they say, Courtney? One says,
Make Love, Not Fascism,
Mhm.
Project 1984.5.
yeah,
What is it? Season of Protest.
Make Love,
Yeah.
Not Fascism is popular. It's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
female
yeah,
design. And I like that. I like the one, Season of Peaceful Protest.
yeah.
What's the
And-
one in the center, Tony? The one with the orange. There it is. Yeah, with kind of a.
Sunflower or sunshine.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Born to Peacefully Resist, and the
Yeah.
font that you chose for it. I mean, the design.
Yeah.
It's very
We made,
reminds me of like 1972 or something. You know,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. It is.
Throwback,
It
I
is
guess you'd
supposed
call
to
it.
be in that spirit. Yeah.
Okay,
And
that's
then
very
we made the sun because it's bright and brings joy. And then someone recommended the planet, and the planet's selling really well. But it's just nice to see people
there's the
showing their
planet,
love
born to peacefully
of the
resist, yeah.
show. Yeah, supporting the show, and also supporting everything that we stand for. So
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
nice.
Really, really
There
cool.
is, you get to rep the Mark Thompson show because it's on the back of the t-shirts
Oh,
toward
yeah,
the
yeah. People
top.
see, yeah, right.
It's just not on the front design for some of these, but the socks are very cool. I can't
socks
stress
are
enough how cool the socks are.
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure about the socks, but I really liked
They
them
are
when they
the
showed up to our
coolest,
house.
hottest,
Yeah.
coolest and hot at the same time. They're cool and hot at the same
Yeah.
time.
And
Penny
the
wants to know
aprons,
how they're selling.
How are they selling?
really well. We sold some this morning while I was
Mm-hmm.
asleep. I
Wow.
woke up to a sale. I try to write a thank you note. I don't necessarily say it's from me, but it is mostly because the transaction's happening on our partner site. That's the fulfillment, which is Fourth Wall. But we, in fact, are running all of that on the back end. And so I want people to know that we are here and we are very appreciative of the support. And any feedback, any other items that people want to see. I'm a little mugs because they require a certain design that we need to work on a little bit because there's two sides to the mug.
Yeah.
There's certain spacing and other relationship issues.
But look at the
in
other stuff
building
you've
that.
got. You've got
But
these
there's a lot of stuff.
sweaters and
The wine cooler is
hats.
super cool. We have a wine cooler at the house.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. You can drink your wine in there.
Your beverage.
Yep. And then we have bucket hats. We've been selling the bucket hats.
The
which I
bucket
just
hats
think so
are,
cool.
and Richard Delamater sent me a picture of him wearing the bucket hat.
Oh,
and
cute.
It's very, very
That's
cool.
very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, I've asked for pictures. So please send pictures. And thank you so much for the support. We
Courtney,
really appreciate
you
it.
are wonderful. I wish we
Wow.
had time to talk to you longer. We'll do that in another.
I'm getting played off.
You are being. I'm sorry to have to do it, but thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Courtney. And how about
Wow.
some applause for Courtney, everybody? And very nice. There you go. Yeah. See you later, Courtney. Very, very well done. Well,
It was suggested yesterday in the chat that you should sell single Mark Thompson show socks so you could buy more than one if you lose the mate. You could easily replace your missing TMTS sock.
I mean, I don't know that they do that anywhere else. Do they sell single
No,
socks? That's very clever.
It would make us stand out.
Yeah, it would indeed. I don't know that it's a viable kind of suggestion, but I love that we're talking and that we're suggesting things. I'm going to give you all of the intense, dark world that we're part of, but we like to kind of ease into it today, maybe a little bit. Shannon from the Gary and Shannon Show on KFI. This is a comment from Richard Delamater, who sends in a super chat at $5. We're super chat and super stickers are live throughout the show. Shannon from the Gary and Shannon Show on KFI revealed that when you played poker, you were barefoot. Can you or can you not dispel this rumor? I can easily dispel this rumor. I'm seldom barefoot. I don't like being barefoot. So,
Really?
Yeah, I don't. So it's not that I hate being barefoot. It's just that I don't like it.
Let those big dogs out.
Yeah, so I might have worn socks, but I think I'm usually in shoes when I'm playing poker. There's a big poker story. There was a big arrest made in Southern California. Maybe that was the nature of the conversation they were having over on the Gary and Shannon Show.
I had to click on the story to make sure your name wasn't in it. I'm like, did Mark
I know.
get taken to the big house?
Yeah. Gilbert Arenas. Now, Gilbert is a former NBA player, played for the Warriors, played for the Wizards. It was a while ago. He was charged along with half a dozen other people allegedly running high-end illegal poker games in a Los Angeles mansion. Exactly. I love the idea of an illegal poker game at a Los Angeles mansion. It said, rented this house, and he's known in the, what was wild about the complaint was that all of these people, like Gilbert, had nicknames or other aliases that they went by. So I don't have the complaint in front of me, but I did read it because I was curious if it was anybody I knew, because I do know a lot of people in that world. And I have played cards with Gil, and it was uneventful. It wasn't at his house.
Did you beat him?
I don't remember. I don't think we got into any big hands together. But he's a good card player, and like he's really like loves playing cards the way I do.
Sure. Yeah.
But he has a lot more money than I do. So he was playing these high-end games that I wasn't really part of. So I played a couple of times with him, but not. But there it is. Look at the picture. Tony's got a picture of the table, the gold-rimmed table. It looks like a Donald Trump type table. It's that kind of gilded table that says Arenas Poker. Of course, his last name is Arenas. So he was arrested along with 6 other people, and his nickname was Agent Zero in all of this. And everybody else had kind of names like Eugene when it was like a long kind of Kazakhstani name type thing. It seemed like there was Evgeny Gershman, Evgeny Turvetsky, Alan Austria. These are names that don't mean anything, but they all had nicknames.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So here's what, according to this article on NBC, they say hosting a cash poker game is not illegal by definition, but it crossed into a criminal act because he collected, allegedly, a rake, something called a rake, a fee that the house charges from each pot, either as a percentage or a fixed amount per hand. And that's why the Operation Arenas Poker Club, with the image of him in his basketball uniform, was busted. The rake. Yeah. It's all about the rake.
Well, I don't think it's all about the rake, but I understand that they talk about that. Poker is legal in California, I thought, says Man from the West 420. Yeah, that's what Kim is saying. It's legal, but if these other things are going on, then it moves into an area of illegality. I'll explain this just briefly, super briefly. The rake is a little bit out of every pot that the house takes for running the game, okay? But here's what was really going on. They're concerned about prostitution and drug use. So they're suggesting, and in the criminal complaint, they talk about this. They talk about the fact that there are women there who are paid, they're massage girls, and they're also paid, just to hang out, and we don't know what's going on. And then there's also potential drug abuse there. I think when you move into the area of drug abuse, illegal drugs, okay, I don't want to say drug abuse, it's not, they don't care whether illegal drug use, and prostitution, then the government gets angry. But I'd say that they hang that anger on the hook of the rake. You know what I mean? Like they raking the game for a little bit. I mean, if you and I had a card game and we had a bunch of people there and we raked a little bit from the pot to cover our expenses for the food for the night and for the wine for the night, whatever I mean, they're not going to bust us for that. You know what I'm saying? But if you all of a sudden say, and, Mark, I want to bring some of my prostitute friends over and I want to bring some drugs in, we go, whoa. This is not a card game anymore. This is something else.
Now you got a ditty party in the process.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what's happening with Gilbert Arenas. I think that they can beat this. I mean, I don't mean to, I think he can. I mean, he's got a lot of money and they'll throw a lot of money at it. But I'll say one last thing, and this is probably going to be a bit controversial. I've kind of given you the reasons that I think this rose to the level of, I'm sorry, this is open, level of...
it's almost as if you just got back from the poker game, Mark.
Yeah, it has that look. I don't know that you'll have to explain to me the victim here. I don't see, I understand you could say, oh, they're all degenerate gamblers up on, okay, but there's no law against being a degenerate gambler. I mean, some of my best friends are degenerate gamblers, and you don't want to do it. I'd discourage you from becoming a gambler, an all-night gambler, where, I don't think it's a good, healthy, or sustainable lifestyle, but that's victimless. It's somebody's choice. I'd also say that the people who are there, the women are not being forced into this. This is a kind of, area that they they want to make money in whatever way. I also don't think that they're all necessarily involved in prostitution. There are a lot of these women who are like cocktail waitresses there. They dress, they're like bartenders at a bar who are, sexy bartenders, or those, the bottle service women at a nightclub, if you've ever been to them. In fact, a lot of those women come out of that world, the bottle service world. Anyway, and then on the drugs, again, I don't know, I get it. There are illegal drugs there, but these are choices. I don't see why the government comes in, except I do see. And let me tell you the one word that really defines why the government cares about this. They don't care about the drug abuse, they don't care about the prostitution, and they don't care about the poker. They care about what? Money. They care about the fact that there is a business going on there. What I've just described to you is a mini economy. Everybody's making money. In fact, they talk about the fact that the women who are compensated and they get tips and everything, those women are taxed by the organizers of the game. And those organizers are running a small business, and it's not so small. It's making a lot of money every year. And guess who's not getting that money? The U.S. government and the state of California. Now, these are the feds who moved in on this. The feds always want their money. And that's what this poker game bust boils down to. So when you look at a situation that is victimless, there are no people here who are complaining as victims. The government's complaining as the victim because they don't have a piece of that money. That's what's going on there. It's that simple. Is it illegal to play poker for particularly high stakes? No, it's not. Of course not. No.
Richard's angling for an invitation. Wants you to invite him to play poker sometime. Says he's a great player. So there you go.
I'd love to have a Mark Thompson show invitational, a tournament. That'd be great fun. I'd love it. Anyway, we're easing into the heavy stuff on the show, but that was one of the big stories, and the feds did move in there. I mean, it's something of a real story. There's never been a poker game like this. Yeah, I mean, it's
I've never seen anything like it.
It's truly a
how does the internet work?
Yeah, they get the word out, and everybody shows up, and they have a high-end poker game, and the government doesn't get any of that money. So
D. Elliott says, how do you know the women aren't forced? You sound like you approve.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, I do know this area, and I know that these are women not being held, against their will at all. In fact, this is a pretty desirable kind of job, because even if you're not, and again, I don't know, I'll just put it this way. I've never been in a game where I've seen any evidence of like sex going on or something like that. Sure. But what I would say is that these women are like super beautiful, and they do play up the sexy. And that's what they do as bottle service women as well. And you tip them. Every time they bring you a drink, you give them a tip. Every time they bring you food, you give them a tip. And for that mini economy, then they're taxed on whatever they make at the end of the night. But they want those jobs, especially around these guys. They've got a lot of money. They're tipping $100 every time the woman comes by. They can make thousands of dollars in one night, and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to have sex with anyone or anything. So I would just say that just based on experience, I just know that there's no forcible kind of situation associated with the women. So I say it with some authority on that. But anyway, that's that's a window into it, and I can provide a little bit of a window into it because I've been in those environments or adjacent to them. But nonetheless, you have video of him walking out. Oh, here's Gilbert Arenas walking out after he was arrested. I think Tony has it.
It looks like he's running down the rocky step.
Can't hold me, baby. They can't hold me. Hello.
I'm sorry. I think this is nothing more than what the government does. They want their taxes. I always tell you, pay your taxes. Don't mess with the government. So you'd have to register this as a small business somehow, and I'm sure it's an illegal business from that standpoint, but that's why the government's interested here. So anyway, that's Thank you for that, Tony. That's the story on Gilbert Arenas.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And the other thing I'll just mention to you before we get too heavy is that there was a loss, a passing of a man named James Leprino. James Leprino. Who is James Leprino? At 87, James Leprino is someone who transformed his family's small Italian grocery store in Denver, Colorado, into a mozzarella empire.
What?
Yes. This business that James Leprino built produced 85% of the cheese for pizzas in the United States of America.
He's the reason we have frozen pizzas. Yeah.
That is it. He is someone who started the Leprino Foods Company in Colorado. He is called the Willy Wonka of cheese by Forbes magazine. He owned a company that industrialized the production and sale of mozzarella, making him a seminal figure in the piping hot rise of pizza on the American food pyramid, Kim. The
Tony
store
told
was...
me the Italian grandmothers don't like his kind of cheese. It has too much stuff in it. They say don't use that kind. No.
Oh, well. There is trouble in Pizzaville. Anyway, at age 87, the Willy Wonka of cheese has passed away. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
we're here to keep you up to date on the important stuff, the less important stuff, the stuff that's shocking, the stuff that will make you smile. And now to Washington.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I will start first with, before I get into the Texas redistricting, which is severe in a state that is already incredibly severely gerrymandered. In fact, when you look at states across the U.S., Texas is one of the most intensely gerrymandered states, and the GOP is going to even more severely gerrymander there. And it has unlocked a course of events that could change American politics for the midterms and beyond. I will get to all of that. In fact, I'll get to it with legal challenges to it when we talk to David Katz in hour 2. But just because we're visiting in this moment, can you cue me up a chunk of Trump, Tony? Because I feel like these Trump things may fall into that category, just to kind of call for it in the moment. I do have a couple of delicious morsels of the madness, of the supplicants, of the insane rollover that American legislators and public servants are doing to our Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. And you have to see it to believe it. This is your chunk of Trump.
Open wide. Ready? Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
The first bit I would say is from RFK Jr. RFK Jr., who was an environmental lawyer, completely buried those priorities associated with that environmental activism with clean water, clean soil, free of pollutants, clean air. He's buried it all. I mean, you have working alongside him one of the greatest environmental terrorists in the history of this country, running the EPA. The rollback of basic environmental restrictions, of basic restrictions on chemical pollutants. You're seeing it on an unprecedented level. And now you've seen the essential element in the EPA, a finding, as it's called, in the EPA, around which a whole bunch of other things become legal. A whole bunch of other regulations become legal because this finding is a platform on which you can lay all of these regulations. And that finding is that these chemical pollutants in the air actually contribute to greenhouse gas issues, greenhouse gas emissions, and also their deleterious influences on the American people's health. So that's stipulated in this finding. And now the EPA is rolling back that finding. So it's against the backdrop of ignoring all of that RFK Jr. continues to serve in this administration. Again, this guy who made a big deal out of being an environmental lawyer, and he's all anti-vax, and he's all about MAHA, make America healthy again. And yet you're allowing these environmental pollutants, these toxic pollutants, into the air, water, and soil. And you're saying nothing about it. But that's not enough. The ass kissing goes beyond that, to the superficial. Here's RFK Jr. kissing Donald Trump's ass about something that he knows will tickle Donald Trump on a level no one else in the room will be able to tickle him. He's complimenting the new look at the White House, the gold-encrusted White House. Here you go.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I just want to begin by making a comment that is irrelevant to what we're gathered here today to talk about. But I've been coming to this building for 65 years, and I have to say that it's never looked better. I've spent some time in the Oval Office, which it really it's been transformed. And I was looking at a picture of the Oval Office the other day when I was there, when I was a kid with my uncle. And, you know, it was extraordinary. It's always extraordinary to go into that sacred space. But I have to say that it looked kind of drab in the pictures. And they were black and white pictures, but it looked drab. And it looks the opposite of drab today. And I think, I know all these portraits, I hope you get a chance to look at them when you go out there, that they were handpicked by the president. And many of them hijacked from other agencies that were trying to keep them. But I mean, you know, my uncle and my aunt, Jackie, who were deeply committed to design, to beauty, and who understood that it's important to have our public buildings be beautiful because it inspires us, it elevates the human spirit. Is one of the, it is a template and it's an example, an exemplar for democracy, the releasing through freedoms of the creativity of the human spirit. And this building of all buildings should look beautiful. And under your stewardship, it looks extraordinary today. So thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, that is, to me, ass kissing on a level that I know.
They are kissing my ass.
You are not kidding.
Oh,
that was a level of humiliation, if the man had any shame, that is unrivaled so far.
But that's what they have to do. They have to, you know, kind of suck up to him to stay in his good graces, which is why yesterday we were talking about Tulsi Gabbard and her. I found information against Barack Obama that she had to, you know, manufacture something to get back into Trump's good graces. They are all kissing up to him, which is really scary and gross.
Well, it's scary and gross because there are real ramifications of it, particularly in the Tulsi Gabbard instance. You know, you're talking about allegations that could then become legal charges that you would then try to levy against Hillary Clinton, for example, or others around Barack Obama. You couldn't prosecute Barack Obama because the Supreme Court, I mean, well, first of all, because he did nothing illegal, but I mean, secondly, because the Supreme Court has given him presidential immunity. But it is, I think, worth noting what Sergio Sanchez says. Sergio says, I wonder how he feels, that is RFK Jr., about Trump removing his uncle's name from the Kennedy Center. Exactly. I mean, here you are, a 6-minute cab ride from your uncle's legacy, at least when it comes to the arts. You just referenced your uncle's taste for the arts and the way they had a sense of a grandeur, but also a sense of taste when it came to the arts generally and culture. They were great patrons of the arts. In other words, when you talk about theater, opera, symphony, this is more the Kennedy family. The Trumps, they're not about that. Yet Melania's name is going on the Opera House. And now this ridiculous, you talk about again, this is just the ass-kissing convention that's going on.
They are kissing my ass.
Exactly. The Bob Onder, the congressman from Missouri who wants to designate the J.F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, as the Donald J. Trump Center for the Performing Arts. Now, that likely won't happen, but that is, again, it's like, get out of my way. I want to show you how I can kiss the president's ass. And then somebody else says, no, get out of my way. I want to put the president's face on the $100 bill. I mean, Ben Franklin, he wasn't a president, and Donald J. Trump is the president. He should be on the $100 bill. I'm going to introduce that. You know what? I'm going to introduce another bill, and that is the day that we put his face on the $100 bill should be a national holiday going forward. Every day, every year, that should be a national holiday, and it should be dedicated to Donald J. Trump, the greatest president in the history of this. This is the level of ass-kissery that is going on in Washington. And again, there's the superficial, which is kind of the stuff that we're talking about. And then there's the wildly significant, which is the stuff that Kim alluded to, which is the Tulsi Gabbard, let's pull together charges against people like Hillary Clinton and those who served in the Obama administration. So that's the first bit of Trump. And then Trump at a meeting during which he is struggling to stay awake with America's favorite doctor, Dr. Oz. The president efforting keeping his eyelids widely open, but having problems. Go ahead. And by the way, you'll see ass-kissery here too. Listen to what Oz is saying.
War room using this kind of technology, because we'll know who you are and who your doctor is. We can block this. We're going to have remarkable advances in how consumers can use their own records. We'll have beneficiaries be able to get MAHA advice and prevention tips, and even be able to nudge them and reward them perhaps for that. And all this comes back to one fundamental issue, Mr. President, which is leadership. I think 60 people, the biggest, the best, the willing, came forward because of your leadership, because you weren't going to take no for an answer, and they know it. We are building a robust and safe, I emphasize that, safe system. It's going to protect the data better than we could have imagined. We're going to be able to accomplish goals that all of us wished from day one that would be in place. These pledges are now confirmed. They're signed in public. And you have therefore empowered Americans to own their property, which is their medical records.
I have to say that even as Oz felt he was losing Trump, Trump slipping into slumber, he pivoted immediately to, and this all comes down to leadership, Mr. President, and under your leadership, your vision, your incredible sense of what's right and wrong, whatever the crap is that he says, he still couldn't quite swing Trump back into consciousness. So as Washington continues to, I think, make decisions, Trump looks like he hit the bong and needs a nap. Yeah, there is that.
He would look like he was trying to force himself awake. Like you see him looking up, trying to.
I'm sure it's tough.
Eyelids get really heavy.
Guy's 79. He wants to kick it. Tom Dusenberry says that Trump has made the White House look like a gaudy Eastern European bordello. Very well put. I again see everything that's going on in Washington, and you have to laugh with some mockery at how obvious and ridiculously over the top the ass kissing is. But people selling their souls to the devil, says Michelle Walton. It makes me sick. It's true. There is a real pact they've made with the devil, and that pact has real ramifications, and it includes the way that ICE is on the streets and in farms and in slaughterhouses of America. And it also includes a chaotic policy when it comes to tariffs that's illegal, actually. But all of this sort of is permitted by the fact that Trump is strong. Trump will dog you on social media, go after you in public, threaten you in every way imaginable. if you don't play by the Trumpian rules. And for that matter, if you're not walking in line with the entire party. And that's why the GOP has become the party of MAGA. When Trump goes down, when he falls from grace, they'll run from him like rats running from a sinking ship, says John Slade. I mean, of course that's true, but I will tell you, I've been hearing about that since 2016. I've been hearing, oh, well, wait, once he starts to lose his political mojo, people will turn on him. Maybe. It's been a while. I'd suggest that he is the new face of politics in America. He is the one who encouraged the severe redistricting in Texas. He says, I want to pick up 5 more seats in Congress, and the party is falling in line. I, at the same time, show you the way that they've dismantled government. I mean, there are real effects of the ridiculous supplicance that is the way in which Trump is being dealt with in Washington. You know, always showing fealty, always showing loyalty. It's one thing in a meeting just to say some nice thing, exchange some pleasantries, stroke his ego, but there's real policy being shaped. And the fact is, this policy has changed this country. I mean, these policies, this group of policies has changed the way that America is viewed. So there are real effects of this. His poll numbers are dropping, and he knows he's in trouble for 2026. He can try to gerrymander Texas, but it won't work. Dems will take the House, says John Slade. Maybe. I'll talk more about that. I'm not so sure. That's your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Glad everybody is here. This is a live show. We do it for you Monday through Friday. So glad you could be part of our community. If you want to smash the like button, I mean, it's what all the cool kids are doing, and I think you want to be cool that way. Anyway, it costs you
with
nothing.
Your iron rod.
Smash that thumbs up. What it does is, here's how the thumbs up work. I finally realized it. Been doing this show, what has it been, a couple of years, Tony? We've been doing it two and a half, something like that. Tony is the keeper of the calendar.
Yeah. I want to say about that.
Yeah, so really never understood. I knew that we have to ask people for a thumbs up, but I never really understood how it works. But the way it works is, I mean, at least in one way, is that if you get enough thumbs up, then YouTube realizes, oh my God, people like this show, we'll start showing it to some people who've never even seen it before or don't even know it exists. So the way to help spread the show's footprint is with that thumbs up. It costs you nothing, and that does help us that way. So smash it like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
And then,
So
of
it
course,
becomes like a suggestion, and like when you open up YouTube, how you just see a bunch of videos populate, it becomes to people who haven't seen the show yet, it'll show up there for other people.
Exactly what Tony said.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, and the if you could subscribe to the show and share the show, again, those things cost you nothing. And by subscribing to the show, you help our subscriber. Make sure if you have subscribed to the show that you're still subscribed. I don't want to get too deep into this, but anyway, these are ways. None of those ways cost anything. And it's a great way you can help spread the word. And finally, if you want to become a part of our community that really supports this show, we have an NPR PBS model. The show is free to you. It will always be free. I won't put it behind a paywall. I mean, if they close this show down because of what's happening with the media and the public spaces, we'll have to figure another way and another platform. But for now, we come to you like PBS and NPR for free, and we're supported by Patreon and PayPal primarily. Yes, we get some ad revenue from YouTube, but it's not enough to sustain us. So if you want to join those Patreon and PayPal folk, really, we run their names at the end of every show because every show is enabled by them. You can go to themarkthompsonshow.com and click through to Patreon and PayPal and join the community and contribute. By the way, there are Patreon and PayPal links under all our videos, so you don't even have to go to themarkthompsonshow.com. You can just go to any video right under it. There are click-throughs to both. So there you go.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Let me remind you that the brilliant David Katz joins us in hour 2. He's the former federal prosecutor. Now he's a defense attorney, and he is one of the greatest legal analysts in the English-speaking world. You hear him on London radio and television, and also across America on the Fox television stations, on News Nation, et cetera. And so he joins us at just after the top of the hour. I didn't want to neglect where we are in the world of coring out government in Washington. And one of the things, as you know, I've talked about this for years, that is on the GOP agenda is the privatization of everything. Okay, it's not, there's almost nothing that the GOP doesn't want to privatize. So if you look at the rise of Eric Prince in the Blackwater informed world of military, right? Those are paid, it's a paid military force, right? And they were a big part of the world of Iraq. So that's how far back. I just want to get beyond you that the fingerprints of privatizing things extend way back. I mean, way back to past wars. So these militias that I think will ultimately be turned on the streets of America, they are privatized. I believe that eventually, I mean, I know they just had a tremendous surge of money that went to ICE, but I think ICE will enlist and even could use some of that money to spend with organizations run by people like Eric Prince, private military organizations, private militias. They're contractors, they're government contractors. And by the way, just because I'm on that, they're not bound by the same laws that American military are bound by. So when you send them into a place like Iraq, they can shoot into a civilian population and witness the fact that eventually they are called upon to answer for their actions. There was actually a legal case against that one guy who was a Blackwater militia member. He was found guilty. In fact, everybody in his unit was disgusted by the way in which he tortured a prisoner, shot into a group of bystanders, etc., and then he was pardoned by Donald Trump. So even after the guilty verdict came in, all I'm trying to say is that these people won't be bound by the same kind of loyalty oaths, loyalty to procedures, loyalty to the law, loyalty to the Constitution that many American military personnel are already pledged to uphold. So now let's cut to where we are now. We're seeing slowly the infiltration of private industry in different government programs. You've seen what's happened at the post office. You've seen what's happened even with Medicaid. You've seen how they begin to undercut government agencies such that privatization is going to look more attractive. Look, government can't do this efficiently. We've set up private industry to do it for you. And the golden apple is Social Security. And Scott Bessent really stepped in it when he said that quiet part out loud, to use the, now off-used phrase. He talked about this new tax policy, message of that huge bill, as a back door. Was immediately what happened.
Oh, you're kind of freezing a little bit, I think.
Problem?
You're freezing here and there. Is it just to me, Tony, or is it to you too?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, to me too. But I wasn't sure if it was my internet or yours. So
yeah, you're freezing a little bit. I'm sorry, but now you sound great.
I wonder if you opened up the same article I did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They don't like what you're saying, Mark. I guess they.
Tony, are you still with us or not? Yeah.
Yeah, he's here. You're okay. You sound good now.
I was on a roll, Tony. Yeah.
Hi, Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, where does everybody? There you go.
Tony.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tony Tony's running the Angels game right now. He can't. I want to be with you, but I.
No.
Can you, Tony? Are we okay to proceed? Or yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we're
Tony.
stable.
Okay.
We're stable. I can see you too. We're stable.
Why is Bessent saying that the tax policy is a backdoor or a loophole for the privatization of Social Security?
Okay, I think it was a misstep on his part. So Scott Bessent, or Bessent, however he says it, he talked about the privatization of Social Security. I'd suggest not accidentally in the sense that he didn't want to say it, but in a way that he didn't realize would be so radioactive so quickly. Mm-hmm. Everybody realized, oh my God, Social Security is part of the plan, the privatization of Social Security. This is Scott Bessent and his remarks. You give a listen.
I'm not sure when the distribution level date should be, should it be 30 and you can buy a house, should it be 60? But in a way, it is a backdoor for privatizing Social Security.
So the reason that is significant is that it's part of a bigger program. The idea that Americans, instead of having Social Security taken out of their checks and just put in some fund somewhere that they then become eligible for later in life, that they would have control over that money. They would have this private investment option. And the idea is that this Social Security insurance, which is what it is, right? It's money that's then put aside and you'll have it later to support you. And Social Security is more than just that. I mean, Social Security Administration does a lot of things. And the privatization begins with giving you control, giving us control over that money as Americans. And then it extends to every part of the Social Security Administration eventually. So this privatization, again, is something that was talked about decades ago. And Trump always insisted that he would never touch Social Security. And he insisted he would never touch Medicaid. Well, Medicaid has already been touched, as you know. And now the Doge crew comes in, and one of the first things they did was to go after Social Security, claim it's an inefficient program, a lot of people getting Social Security who shouldn't. That wasn't true. Social Security is one of the more efficient agencies in all of Washington. And so I think you've seen two things. You've seen the total fraud that is Donald Trump when he talks about, I won't touch Medicaid and I won't touch Social Security, when he's trying to essentially appeal to his generally older base that may need support from those two programs. So you see the fraud of that because he has gone after both. And I think you also see the hidden agenda that's been there for years, which is the GOP wants to privatize Social Security. Let's privatize it. Let's privatize the post office. Let's privatize Social Security. Let's privatize all this stuff. Let's give private industry control over these things. And before you tell me that private industry will be better than the government, look at private industry and tell me it is. Look at what's happening with private industry. I mean, spin the wheel of private industry and tell me where it is better than government. I mean, I get it. Government can be oftentimes a laborious process of getting through all of the bureaucracy to what you need. But have you ever tried to reach the cable company? Have you ever tried to reach FedEx? We just had an issue with FedEx yesterday. Guy came to the house with FedEx, okay, because this is important. They want to privatize the Postal Service. You'll be dealing with industries that are going to be turned over to private industry like FedEx. Listen, FedEx is great. You know, you send it, well, FedEx is really expensive, and everything will become extremely expensive. And if you don't like it, you can suck it because it's the only game in town. That's the way private industry works. One of the reasons that you get to use the post office and things aren't as expensive is because we subsidize that, right? We all subsidize these things with government. These are government services subsidized by U.S. taxpayers. Well, the FedEx people, they're subsidized by us when we send a FedEx letter. So yesterday, the FedEx guy came, and he didn't even ring the doorbell. He just put a thing on the door saying that he was here. And we have video evidence of it because we have a security camera out front. And so we see that he didn't ever ring the doorbell, didn't leave he just left that little thing saying, tried you, couldn't get you.
Where's the package?
The package is now they're going to try to redeliver it today, supposedly. Courtney is like,
hovering.
Yes, because it's apparently something very important to her. That's why it was FedEx. And the idea somehow that FedEx takes more care may just be wrong. But
Yeah.
the broader point I'm trying to make is, and then they said, well, if you don't like it, you can come pick it up. Because she called and she said, I saw your guy, didn't even ring the doorbell. And they said, well, you can come pick it up at this place. It's like 20 miles from here. So and 20 miles in Southern California, that could take you like a day and a half. So all I'm trying to say is these are businesses that are waiting for this privatization. And Social Security would be the juiciest privatization in American history. So can we outsource all of our federal agencies to India call centers and AI? Exactly. Why do we need Americans involved in our government at all? Sell it off, right, MAGA? Thank you, B.A. Ware. That's exactly right. Mark needs to reset his connection. Freeze City, says B.A. Ware. Maybe I'll do that. Tony, you want to play a...
We're back. We're good.
Yeah,
We're good right
you're
now.
fine for now. Yeah.
Oh, we are? Okay. Tony's monitoring it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping... Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
You know.
I mean, I think I know what happened, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? I see.
Yeah. It was that we both clicked on that website that you clicked it for that article, and it nuked my connection too. So that connection is that site is famous for basically killing the browser.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm going to close a lot of stuff now. Well, I'm excited that we're back. And that is just a word about the privatization of Social Security. I think it continues to be a politically difficult space for the GOP to navigate. But I have to say something. They have navigated very difficult spaces thus far. And I'm not at all convinced that they wouldn't go after Social Security if they really see an opportunity. And clearly they do see an opportunity, given the fact that Scott Bessent is talking about it already. Now, tomorrow, we have Alex Lawson on. You remember Alex Lawson if you're a viewer of the show. He's one of the great authorities on the Social Security Administration in America. And he will be here tomorrow to talk about what these actions might mean for you and what these actions might mean and indicate for the future going forward for Social Security in America. He'll be here in hour 1 tomorrow. And just because I'm talking about tomorrow, let me mention as well that the award-winning screenwriter and director and political activist Billy Ray joins us. He did Captain Phillips. He wrote that, and he wrote, Google him. He's amazing. And he's a friend of the show. And as you're aware, not only a brilliant screenwriter and director, but he's written and directed that Showtime 2-part miniseries about Donald Trump. And he's a magnificent mind. He'll be here tomorrow as well, in addition to all of our normal Friday people, Jim Avila, Michael Shore, etc. So I encourage you to join us tomorrow. Friday is a big show always, but tomorrow particularly so.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Vivian Alshawa, an OG of the show, with a big shout out to you.
Big shout out.
For a super sticker for $10. Come on now.
Woo.
Very impressive. Kathleen Bryant with a super sticker for $20.
Big shout out.
Big shout out, Kathleen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God. I noticed the Mark Thompson Show has gotten 2,000 more subscribers in the last 30 days, says CC Ryder. Was 125,000, is now 127,000. Good job. I love it. I don't know where they came from, but that really is nice. We do need all of the support, and I think a lot of it comes from you guys. Michelle Walton with a $10 super sticker. Look at you, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I rather like the British. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Really do appreciate it. All right, well, that's a little bit of what's happening in Washington. The other thing I just wanted to mention, and this speaks to, I think, the utter bankruptcy of the way things are being done and how they've handed the keys to the kingdom over to Trump unchallenged. And look, I get it. I've got Trump derangement syndrome. Blah. Look, he is the president rapidly reshaping America's role in the world, reshaping the economy, with a chaotic tariff structure that's utterly insane, completely unhinged. No economist in the world believes this is good for the economy, and has an immigration policy that's equally chaotic and also illegal. So sorry for focusing on him, but it seems like he's doing a lot of stuff that deserve focus. So now to the tariffs. Just hours ago, signs an order, does Trump, increasing the tariff on Brazil and Brazilian imports to 50%. And this is why this is particularly important. He is doing this under this national emergency that he used to justify the imposition of all of these tariffs, right? And it was a 10% tariff on Brazil, now it's 50%. The reason for the 50% tariff, as you are probably aware, but just to emphasize, and he specifically cites this, is the prosecution of their former president, Bolsonaro. The allegation is that he, Bolsonaro, engineered a plot to stay in power after he lost the election. Now, Brazil has been singled out by Trump because he's a Bolsonaro pal as getting 50% tariffs because Trump feels as though, and he's articulated this, the Brazilian justice system is out of control. And they have a mutual admiration society, both Bolsonaro and Trump. But the reason that I think this is particularly amplifying the situation in America is because this tariff that he's put in, a witheringly high tariff, 50%, doesn't reflect any kind of economic strategy. It doesn't reflect any kind of benefit for the American people. It is purely a feud he has on behalf of Bolsonaro with the Brazilian justice system. It is purely personal anger that Trump has and revenge that he's visiting upon the Brazilian justice system for prosecuting Bolsonaro. There is no justification for it from the standpoint of helping Americans. That should be a real problem for those who are in Washington, legislators, regulators, cabinet members, public officials, public servants, all there to help the American people. That's why the government is there. Yet, Donald Trump is imposing this 50% tariff on Brazil because of a personal anger he has and a personal defense of the president, former President Bolsonaro. It should bother all of us. Again, it's not everything, but it's of a kind. It is the kind of thing that he's doing domestically. Angry at Obama, turns Tulsi Gabbard loose to concoct something about the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton, whatever, put it together. And that's what she's doing. So his personal jihads are now being played out in public policy, the most recent of which was just hours ago when he signed that 50% tariff on Brazil. It has nothing to do with the American economy, nothing to do with Americans. He's just angry at Brazil for prosecuting his pal. And so this is the sort of thing that's happening now. And I'll mention that he is also imposing on India 25% tariffs. Yeah. And those are related to the fact that India is bringing in oil from Russia. Isn't that what it is, Kim? I believe that's what it is. They originally were threatened, and negotiations, they say, are continuing, but they've hit a wall. And they also, I guess, want to open up the Indian agriculture markets. So that's been a shielded sector of the Indian economy, I guess, for some time. And now Trump is trying to get those opened.
They say
So,
that
yeah.
Trump said on Wednesday that in addition to the 25% tariff on imports from India, that India will also face an unspecified penalty for its dealings with Russia and its membership in the BRICS grouping of nations. So again, it's another penalty.
Right. And of course, Trump wants to push back against BRICS. I mean, it's wild to me that Trump wants to push back against BRICS while he really ignores all the sort of coherent meetings of powers associated with the G7. I mean, with the NATO alliance, he's been a problem for the developed world in trying to manage economic policy, trade agreements, and the like. And yet he's pushing back on BRICS. I mean, this might fall into the category of you got to pick your battles, but this is an extraordinary thing to see him going after India this way. And I would just say this, that, I mean, when you talk about a 25% tariff, that's a heavy load. That's a really heavy load. And that's going to come out in the American economy. And of course, the 50% tariff on Brazil, that's, twice that heavy load. So I think these are real issues that deserve attention. And by the way, most Americans unaware of them. I told you about that conversation I had the other night with a very smart guy over dinner. And he told me, you know why I like Trump? You like Trump because he says he's going to do something and then he does it. He gets stuff done. I go, well, he really violates the law to get a lot of stuff. Well, you know what? I don't know. I just know that, he says he's going to do it and he does it. Okay.
Wow.
But that was the appetite for a strong man that I found in that moment was played out in the conversation with my friend. I don't necessarily know that that's shared by everybody, but I think there is an aspect of Trump and Trumpism that people do spark to. Even as I say that, I know his poll numbers are sinking, right, Kim? I mean, he's got poll number problems when it comes to his approval rating, does he not?
They have been going down, down, and down. And the latest, I think it's a YouGov poll, to get to the story. The latest YouGov poll shows that I think the approval rating is down to 40%. Trying to find the story still. Here it is. Yeah, the approval rating still sinking. It was the lowest. It is the lowest of his second term. The approval rating is now 40% approving. For the last 2 weeks, 55% of Americans have disapproved. 41% have approved of his performance. And for the 2 weeks before that, it was 53 disapprove, 42% approve. And now we're down to 40% approving. So you can see a slow couple percentages here, couple percentages here. But the biggest change, according to this poll, comes from Republicans, which is kind of surprising. They are shifting away from the president by 12 points over the last 2 weeks as he navigates this whole Epstein scandal. That's why they think that the Republicans are kind of turning their backs.
It's wild to see all of these things that we've talked about. We haven't even mentioned Epstein today, and yet that's the thing that cuts through. It's salacious, it involves high-profile people, and it involves a pledge, right? The pledge that Trump made along with MAGA Nation, that if we get control of all of this, of the FBI, of the Justice Department, of all of these institutions of government that have these documents and files, we'll release them with total transparency. And of course, the fraud of that is that Trump will do anything to not release the Epstein files. He wants no part of those Epstein files released in any kind of whole way. And the reason is he's all over those files like a bad smell. I mean, you cannot get Trump out of those files. We know he was on the Epstein plane. And I thought in the documentary, I have to go back and watch it. I haven't watched the documentary in a while, but I recommend it. And now I think there's a second documentary also on Netflix about the Epstein situation. It is understood that Trump went to that Epstein Island, but again, I'm not sure of that. I have to go back and look at it.
He says he didn't. He
says he didn't. He also says I was barely on his plane. Right. We know 7 times he was at minimum.
He said he never got the privilege, Mark.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
I mean, again,
legit. That's what he said. It's shocking to me, though, that America seems to now care about children and the plight of children. Sandy Hook would indicate that we really don't care that much. But you mentioned the privatization coming up of Social Security, and that even Trump administration officials say his tax policy opens the door for this to happen. And this is why people voted for Trump, right? Their bottom line. They wanted better prices at the grocery store and better prices at the gas pump. So you would think that Social Security and the privatization of this benefit for American retirees would be front and center. But why do they turn away from him? Because they supposedly care about children and his character? Really? If you cared about his character, then why did you vote for him in the first place?
Yeah, it's so there's a cognitive dissonance there. It just makes and cognitive or dissonance have to be ding words. One of them. Anyway, maybe both. I am astounded as well. I mean, you can't reasonably look at policy and the way things are being done and support this president, but I'm sure they would say that Obama and Democratic presidents past would suffer maybe that same criticism by Republicans. So
they are kissing my ass.
They are. He's getting a good ass kissing in Washington. He's getting a lot of stuff done that's pretty scary.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy is one of the leading legal analysts in the English-speaking world. You can hear him on London radio and watch him on London television. You can listen to him and see him on News Nation, on Fox News Channel, and across all the television stations in America, and on to New Zealand and Australia. I don't know how he does what he does, but he breaks down these legal issues so beautifully. The former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney in Southern California, David Katz, everyone.
Hi, great to be with you.
David, I wanted to ask you about a story that I saw about the immigration policy. I'm really troubled, as you know, by the immigration policy. And this is a lawsuit that is being launched by congressional Democrats because they are not being allowed into ICE facilities to inspect the facilities. Now, I'm just curious whether, for you to game this out, whether there is legal high ground there, and also might the government capitulate? Might the government open up these facilities and be more user-friendly from this standpoint? Can the president deny members of Congress their legal right to investigate these ICE facilities?
I think the House members will win. I think it's good that they hired counsel and that they're pursuing this. I think what we see from Trump and DHS, Kristi Noem, is that they will get away with anything, and I mean anything, that there's not pushback on, and that ultimately these things have to go to the courts. The idea that they could be worked out in a reasonable way, Trump and DHS and the Attorney General Bondi, to a large extent, they don't want to work anything out. It's performative. It's not trying to get to some mutually shared goal or accommodation. In this particular situation, it is expressly stated in statute, Mark, that a member of Congress can visit to see how these detention facilities are being maintained and that the rights of detainees are being respected. They can do it on 24 hours notice. Well, DHS then said, no, it really takes 7 days. The statute says 1 day, but DHS, arrogates to itself this timeline of 7 days. So then they write a letter ahead 7 days in advance, and then they're met by somebody who says, no, we can't have you go up to the 10th floor because the 10th floor isn't a detention holding facility. The Congress members say, well, we understand that you have detainees that are being held up on the 10th floor. They say, well, yes, that's true, but it's not a detention facility. Well, that's even worse. It's a makeshift place with no bathrooms and no accommodations, and it's being used as a detention facility, is the exact thing that you would want to scrutinize as a member of Congress. So I think that's when they finally had it and said that they were going to go to court. Now, the Republican pushback, the Trump administration, DHS pushback, will probably be that only Congress as a whole can ask for that, and Congress as a whole is Republican and won't do anything. But that doesn't make any sense. This seems like Congress would have thought this through, that there'd be one group in control of Congress, and there'd be many Congress members who were thinking, you know what, the group in power is not the one that is maintaining the detention facilities properly. We want to see whether people are being tortured, whether their rights are being denied. These are hellholes in America, Mark. They're all over the place. They're not in some black site in Iraq like they were under W. They're right here in our communities. These two Congress members were trying to visit one in Manhattan. And this is a terrible, terrible thing. It was terrible enough when it was abroad, but when it's right here in plain sight and the statute says that they're allowed to plainly view it and then they're denied their right to go view it. The other thing that you always see in these cases is that supposedly there's not a private right of action, that only some authority who's not these Congress members can bring it, or that they don't have standing, or somehow the president can trump their, their congressional power. But people need to always bear in mind their Article 1. The Constitution's built around Congress. Congress is Article 1 powers. The idea was we were going to have a Congress, they were going to decide things, and then they were going to have an executive carry out their orders. That's 2. And then they were going to have a judiciary independently, fairly decide all of them without favor or fear, and they were going to be Article 3. That's our constitutional setup, not some unitary executive that tells everybody what to do like in a dictatorship.
Well, that was the old setup, David. The welcome to America 2.0. They have American Oversight, which is one of the law firms representing the members of Congress, and there are, I believe, 12 members of Congress who have filed this lawsuit against the administration. But the Democrats, in large numbers, put this together, and they are saying the following. At a time when ICE is detaining more individuals than ever before, over 56,000 people, and reports of mistreatment, overcrowding, unsanitary conditions, and the detention of U.S. citizens are growing, the need for real-time, on-the-ground oversight has never been more urgent. Blocking members of Congress from oversight visits to ICE facilities that house or otherwise detain immigrants clearly violates federal law, and the Trump administration knows it. And the DHS assistant there for communications says, members of Congress could just schedule a tour. Instead, they're running to court to drive clicks and fundraising. So you kind of stated it bluntly and well, but you would think, and let me just read the tea leaves. You're saying they will capitulate, will they not? You're not going to actually have to run this all the way through the courts in the District of Columbia, are you?
No, they may have to run this through the courts. I think that people have to brace themselves to the fact that, this is to be the dominant monkey. This is not only to dominate the situation, but to appear to dominate the situation. And so they have to really need a court order. And then, of course, the Trump administration will blast the judges. They don't care if they were appointed by Trump in his last term. They don't care if they're Republicans. That's also the game plan, is to simply blast the courts and to act like we don't have Article 3, to act like we don't have an independent judiciary that can review and disqualify executive actions. We've had this since Marbury v. Madison. I mean, this is what the fundament of our whole country is, that there's a court. All of these countries, all these banana republics have beautiful constitutions. The problem is they don't have real enforcement, and they don't have independent judicial enforcement with life tenured judges who just try to call it right or wrong under the law and the facts and not be politically influenced, which is, if we're going to get into this new crowd that's in power right now in some of these U.S. attorneys' offices.
I love that what you just said, because it's something that we should all hear and remember. These countries, these banana republics, they have constitutions too. They have elections also, but people ignore them. The government ignores them and pushes through what they want and runs things as they want. Now, speaking of lifetime appointments and judicial appointments that fall into the controversial category, I take you to Emile Beauvais. During his confirmation hearing, I thought of you because they did rush the process through. There were numerous whistleblower reports, and then even beyond the whistleblower reports, there were all of these reports of Beauvais's clearly unconstitutional utterances, telling those who were involved in it was the deportation matter early on. Remember when they deported all those people to Central America without a court order and in violation of a court order? Beauvais was the one who said, F the court order, F the court. not important. Just do what you have to do. This is the guy who was just confirmed to this third district, was it? Yeah. And tell me, first of all, what that means, because I'm told it's a breath away. Everything I read is like a breath away from a Supreme Court appointment. It's a very high appointment on the court.
There are 13 federal appellate courts around the nation, and they started in New England, so that gets to be the First Circuit. By the time they got out to California and the West and the West Coast, we're the Ninth Circuit. This Third Circuit is covering New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. As one of the wits said, if Tony Soprano were a real person and were really taken to federal court and he appealed, that would be the Third Circuit. Pennsylvania, Jersey, right, and Delaware. And it's an illustrious court, as many of these circuit courts are, except it has three now notorious, in my opinion, members. One was Alito, who went to the U.S. Supreme Court. One was Trump's sister, who resigned from the court as this investigation by the niece into the finances and how she alleged that she'd been cheated out of her money by Trump and his sister, the Third Circuit judge. And now it has Emile Beauvais, who seems to be one of the least confirmable people in American history, and yet he got confirmed. And the reason he's one of the most least confirmable people to a lifetime judicial appointment on the appeals court, as he is because they really had the goods on him. They had a fellow named Ruvani, who's now gone public and said, I'm scared to death. But I'm going public. This is my duty. I'm saying what happened. And what he says happened was that, as you just recounted, at a meeting, Beauvais said to him, F the courts. If the courts don't do what we want, if the courts don't approve what we want or allow what we want, we're going to do it anyway. F the courts. And he says that under oath. He says that as a whistleblower. He was willing to say that to the Senate committee. And Grassley, the 90-something-year-old head of that committee, refused to call him. The Republicans refused to call him. They had other witnesses. Apparently, there was a conference call that was very damning to Beauvais, and someone had a recording of it. And the argument was that recording was inconsistent with Beauvais' testimony. That's a very polite way of saying that it smacked of possible perjury by the candidate. The candidate testified under oath, Beauvais, and here was a tape that surfaced that was inconsistent with that testimony. They also did not allow the Republicans, to be played. And then finally, they pushed him through 50-49. The two female Republicans, the usual suspects, thank goodness, voted against him, Murkowski and it's Collins, right, from Maine.
Right.
And then Tom Tillis, oh my goodness, he doesn't understand why he voted for Hegseth. He scratches his head every day that he affirmed Hegseth and incompetent. But here's this Tom Tillis, who just voted to confirm this person. McConnell, oh, he cared about the rule of law and the courts. They could never get around to Merrick Garland. McConnell just voted to confirm this person. And 50-49, he slid through. And long after I'm gone, he'll be sitting either on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, or people are really worried that they're going to try to boost him to the U.S. Supreme Court. He is a true loyalist. Cannon down there in Fort Pierce, Florida, is crying bitter tears. It's not going to be you, Judge Cannon. It's not going to be you. It's going to be Emile Beauvais if they can get what's his name, Thomas or Alito to resign.
Right. That's
so
the
they'll probably
thinking.
look and see. It depends how they think the Senate's going. If they really think they're going to lose the Senate, then the Republicans will tell Alito or Thomas, this is your moment. While we have 53 Republican votes, you're going to step aside. We're going to put Beauvais up there. And presumably the same 50 who voted for him for the Court of Appeals will vote for him in the U.S. Supreme Court. That'll be Justice Beauvais to American lawyers and to our system of justice. And that's what people are so scared about. He's the guy he's notorious for. If you didn't like the raid on the Capitol, if you didn't like the marauding, if you didn't like the 5 people who died on January 6th, he's the guy who orchestrated for Trump the pardons of all of those people, all the people who attacked police officers, who committed all these crimes against law and order and against the police, against individual police officers, who many of them are still, incapacitated, hurt. As I say, a couple of them are now not with us anymore. They're not alive anymore. Beauvais orchestrated that pardon for over 1,500 of the people convicted in that case or about to stand trial in that case. And of course, he's the notorious one, on top of everything else, for the Mayor Adams fiasco. He decided to give Mayor Adams a deal up there in New York. And it wasn't just that he was going to dismiss the case with prejudice. His idea was to dismiss it without prejudice, hold this sort of Damocles over Mayor Adams's head that a federal judge would not stand for. So they had to dismiss it with prejudice. But, it seems to me like it was a righteous case. And there's a case out here in LA right now, which just got dismissed too, against a big Trump donor. And, the lawyers always come out for that, but I'm a criminal defense lawyer. The lawyers come out and said, my client is so innocent, there was no case against him. But, they don't seem to want to win the case by motions to the court. They don't seem to want to win the case by winning or at least hanging the jury. They're so sure their client's innocent, but they never want to test that in a system where we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt and where the government would need all 12 votes beyond a reasonable doubt to vote them guilty. They seem to want to give a campaign contribution in the case of this one out here. And they want to do what Mayor Adams did, which was to basically say, oh, yes, I'll let ICE in anywhere. New York City hates ICE. Well, let you tell you, I'm going to get it look like a quid pro quo. And the 4 or 5 attorneys who were on it, Mark, wouldn't sign on. And then this Beauvais said to, this is according to, testimony under oath, right, Mark, that he said, look, in an hour, one of you guys is going to sign this, and you're going to be the head of the unit. But if you don't sign it, now he says, because that they can prove that. Now he says, oh, I didn't mean it as a reward. All I meant was if you're going to be rewarded and you're going to be the one promoted. If you're the one who signs it, that shows that you believe in the chain of command. And if you don't believe in the chain of command, you shouldn't be working for the government, because people in the government believe in a chain of command and a hierarchy. So he's gotten caught over and over again on statements. There are reputable lawyers who are willing to say under oath or have tapes that show that he shouldn't have been confirmed. The Republicans just confirmed him with all Republican votes, 50-49.
Also, the pedigree of Beauvais is different than some of these other, even hard right-wing justices that are in the pipeline for this. In the case of, I'm thinking of the Supreme Court, like Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, they're Federalist Society approved and on that list. Even other federal judicial appointments are coming from that Federalist Society pipeline. But this is not who Beauvais is. He's not a Federalist Society guy. He wouldn't be on that list. He is a henchman, straight up, former Trump defense attorney. Based on everything I've read, this guy doesn't even have the pedigree of a Kavanaugh or an Amy Coney Barrett. With all the problems that they have, they come through that Federalist Society, which is a hard right, Christo-fascist, I think, movement that is now finding its way into American life through the judicial system. But Beauvais isn't even from that. He is, as I say, he's a thug. He's a judicial thug for the President of the United States.
Well, one thing about Beauvais is Beauvais must have made good grades in law school, because he did end up at the Southern District of New York. He got hired fair and square as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, which is a hard place like my old district was. Generally speaking, and we can get to this in a minute too, but generally speaking, you have to be very academically oriented. You have to have done very well in law school to get yourself in a position to be a clerk to a federal judge. And that's the normal pipeline to become an assistant U.S. attorney. I don't know if he was a clerk to a federal judge, but I do know that Beauvais at least had the pedigree in that sense. But I certainly agree with you, Mark, that he seems much more like a street fighter, including what people said about him during his tenure at the U.S. Attorney's Office, that while he was acting as a federal prosecutor, people have terrible reviews of his deportment, which, with this new interim now acting U.S. attorney out here in Los Angeles, the Central District of California, there have been all of these revelations of him screaming and yelling at people, acting totally inappropriately. That is not a normal thing. It's sort of hard to imagine, but I think people should imagine if they've never been in that environment. People are very polite. They have intellectual disagreements. Your boss disagrees with you on something, you don't hear him yelling down the hall. Apparently, this guy was a screamer, Beauvais, and the new interim now acting U.S. attorney in L.A. that it looks like we're going to have for another 9 months through this, what he himself calls a trick up their sleeve due to this trick that Trump, Bondi, and Assange had up their sleeve. We're going to have Assange here in L.A. For another 9 months. And from all of these accounts, he's a screamer. Someone said, you know that he's actually in the office because you hear his voice booming down the hall yelling at somebody. And that is really unusual. And I clerked for a judge. Obviously, we had intellectual disagreements. No one's voice ever boomed down the hall in over a year as a federal law clerk. I can't remember in over 6 years at the U.S. Attorney's Office anybody's voice booming down the hall. I mean, you know, yelling is for people without power. We had a federal
that's a
judge.
great way to. That's a great line.
We had
That's
a federal
such
judge
a great
down
line.
here who used to scream and yell at people in his courtroom, and it's like, you have all the power, dude. You know, he lived to be about 95, this judge, and he was a yeller and screamer and had that sort of bad deportment all the way to the end.
Well, Beauvais is an ethical train wreck based on everything that I've read. And I wanted to ask you about this. Michael D says, please ask David if Trump is stacking the court in New Jersey to protect him from legal prosecution there.
Well, he does have that golf course in New Jersey, and New Jersey is all one big district. So a case filed in federal court in New Jersey would go to this Third Circuit, and it would be handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office because there's just one U.S. Attorney's Office for New Jersey. But I don't think that's the reason. Now, this say what you want about the person they just put in the post. It's so controversial. Don't take my word. The federal judges in Los Angeles would not approve this person that Trump wants to be and is right now as we speak the acting U.S. attorney in L.A. But you know, I don't know, Mark. It's gotten to a point. We will survive this, but the reality is, people didn't used to look at this as well. 3.5 years is like, you know, we're going to take power and we're going to do everything we want in 3.5 years. People thought, you know, if you run things like this, if you run roughshod over everybody, including try to run roughshod over the federal judges who have life tenure, this is not a key for success. I mean, this U.S. attorney out here in L.A., he went on Glenn Beck's show and said some things that are just astonishing. And then they were repeated in Bloomberg News and in the front page of the LA Times. The LA Times has been running the story for people who aren't in LA on the very top, above the fold on the front page of the LA Times.
Yeah, this Bill Asaley, is that how he says his last name? Is that the guy in Los Angeles?
Well, it's hilarious because when you go to the grand jury, Mark, when you go to the grand jury, you present, of old times, you present a bill. And then they always vote a true bill because they'll indict a ham sandwich. Apparently, they won't indict a rotten ham sandwich because they have actually managed to find grand juries, who have rejected. These cases are so poor and the standard is probable cause. And there are people like, you know, off the street who don't know anything about law and who are inclined to do whatever the government, which is there by itself with no defense attorney, whatever the government wants. Even those cases are so bad, they're so rotten that the grand juries have returned a no true bill, a no bill. So now everyone at the U.S. Attorney's Office, according to the reporting, calls Assange no bill Assange.
I want to ask you about the Epstein situation and the Ghislaine Maxwell meeting with the top Justice Department officials. I mean, we've talked about the unorthodoxy of this. I mean, how it's way out of bounds. Like in no universe would this happen. And Ghislaine Maxwell is saying, I don't really want to talk to anybody unless I get protection, immunity. And I'm wondering if you can just kind of give us a moment on that, both negotiation and that situation with Epstein from a legal standpoint and where Maxwell sits legally vis-a-vis Congress's demand to hear from her and also her situation with the judicial system.
Well, I've been covering Ghislaine Maxwell for a long time because her case went to trial in New York, and it was a huge story all over the country, all over the world, really, but especially in New York. So we were covering it all the time. One of the stations had rented a place in Chinatown, and you could see out the window. It overlooked the federal courthouse where she was, and it was a great shot. And it was a lot of coverage. And I remember the case so well in so many details. And she really didn't put on much of a defense. She thinks she has this legal defense, which is up in the U.S. Supreme Court right now, which we can talk about if you'd like to. But the reality is the U.S. Supreme Court is not going to take her case. They're not going to decide the case in her favor. And everyone who says that that's some big deal, the Supreme Court is meeting about her case. They meet on all the cases in late September to decide which ones they're going to schedule argument for next term. So in late September, I believe they're going to get together on her case and about 100 or 200 other people who would love to have their case heard by the U.S. Supreme Court. And they're going to deny a hearing on her case and on the other cases. The only thing I think that might prove me wrong is it will be so high profile by then that the U.S. Supreme Court will want to take it just because it's so high profile, but they're going to reject her legal claim. And just if I could take 30 seconds on that, because I don't hear it much reported in the news. Jeffrey Epstein is given a sweetheart deal down in federal court. That's by a U.S. attorney down there named Acosta. Acosta goes on to be a cabinet member for Trump in Trump 1.0. Acosta has to resign because he's given such a sweetheart deal to Epstein. And knowing what we knew later about Epstein, although people said knowing what he knew right then about Epstein, he shouldn't have given that sweetheart deal. The sweetheart deal was that he would not be prosecuted at all in federal court for this child sex trafficking, but he would only be prosecuted in state court, given a 1-year sentence. And during that 1-year sentence in state court, he would be allowed to basically do whatever he wanted to during the day and sleep in a barracks type place at night. Sweetheart, very sweet deal. As part of that sweetheart deal, he got even more. 4 unnamed co-conspirators were not going to be prosecuted in the Southern District of Florida. Ghislaine Maxwell was not named as one of those 4. It would be a stronger claim by her if she'd been one of the 4 people actually named. She wants to say, I was one of the 4 people. And the answer is, really? How come your name's not in there? But what's worse than that for her is that the deal is only covering the Southern District of Florida. And later on, she's prosecuted in the Southern District of New York because they have a case against her in the Southern District of New York. They have venue in the Southern District of New York. She made that motion timely that it should be dismissed because she should have gotten this derivative immunity from Epstein's agreement. The court said no. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals said no. And I believe the U.S. Supreme Court's going to say no. So people who say she has no reason at all for not putting on her defense before, she would say, I thought I was going to beat it on this legal argument, but now I didn't. I don't want to serve 20 years, and now I'm willing to talk. That's what she's going to say. What I think is that I don't believe a word that she has to say. She was investigated for, among other things, perjury. And you look at the charges, and you look at her motivation, which is the only person who can get her out of this trouble, because the U.S. Supreme Court and her motion are not going to do it. The only one who can get her out of her 20-year sentence is Trump. And so she's incredibly incentivized to say something like, yeah, it was a bunch of Democrats and Trump never had anything at all to do with any of the misconduct in this case. And then Trump says, oh my God, there's been a miscarriage of justice. The Democrats were in the process of railroading this lady. Thank goodness. This is another Liberation Day. And he'll cut her loose on a commutation. And people who say it won't happen, tell me what's going to stop it from happening. Anyone who says that's not going to happen, what is going to stop Trump and Maxwell's lawyer from doing that, along with Trump's personal lawyer, this Blanche guy? Now, this Blanche thing is out of this world. Blanche has no business whatsoever, not just because he's the #2 Department of Justice official, but because he's Trump's personal lawyer. And he even told Congress when he was being confirmed, would you consider yourself still Trump's lawyer? He even admitted, yes, I'd consider myself still Trump's lawyer. He went down there not to pursue justice, Mark, but to make sure that whatever she was going to say, he could hear it, he could interact with her. And let's just put it this way. He went down there because he didn't want anything she had to say to hurt Trump. And she got the message loud and clear, I believe, that she better not say anything that really hurt Trump, because he'd be on his merry way, Blanche, and her commutation or pardon would also be on its merry way away from her. So it was completely, the one thing that's good is that there was an FBI agent. People have speculated, they don't know who was in the meeting. He would be not just criminal, but criminally insane, Blanche, if he went down there and there's no record of what happened. He wants to have a record to protect his butt. 4 years from now, Trump won't be in power anymore, and somebody will think to look back at what Blanche did. And Blanche at least wants to have a clear tape, a clear record with a couple of FBI agents and a tape that he didn't do anything wrong. And he's a very, very smart lawyer, so I'm sure he made sure he didn't do anything wrong.
So he went down there at the behest of Trump, you're saying, but he played it as close to kosher as you could play it, given the extraordinary nature of that meeting?
Yes, but you ask any lawyer, any former assistant U.S. attorney, they say what should have happened is that the prosecutor on the case, who knew the case best, should have gone down there along with the FBI agents who knew the case best. It doesn't seem like it was just happenstance right now that Maureen Comey was fired just a few days before that meeting went down, Mark, because she would have been the logical person to go. Now she's not with the government anymore. She can't go. And so instead of having a person like Ghislaine Maxwell interviewed by the person who knew the case best, because you know what they do in these things, they go into it, the prosecutors and the FBI agents, with a cooperator, would-be cooperator like her. They go into it thinking this is all going to be a pack of lies. They're just going to blow smoke up my you-know-what. And so they ask questions that they know the answers to. So many of the questions are ones that the investigators know the answer to see if they're going to catch the would-be cooperator on lies, minimizations. Blanche was not the right person to do that. Maureen Comey was the perfect person to do that. So my opinion is that they made sure she was no longer with the government so that it would be impossible that she be the one. And so it supposedly made some sense that Blanche was the one who went down there.
Well, you've talked about even in this conversation that's kind of the MO. They did that in Los Angeles with that with the federal attorney there, the federal judge there. Is it they got rid of, help me, on that big deal with the fat burger guy in Los Angeles?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. This is incredible, this story. But then the key
Trump
was
would say, everyone's talking about the fact that they're never going to have a Johnny Rockets or a fat burger again. I mean, come on.
They fired a career federal prosecutor to get just what you were talking about. That's what made me think of it.
There's a little wrinkle to that one. He's this fellow, Adam Schleifer, if I'm saying his name right. So he is from a wealthy family, and as well as being a great lawyer, he's interested in politics. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, Adam Schiff went from that office to be, senator. He wanted to be a Congress member from Westchester, which is, I guess, where his family is. So with his talent and with his daddy's money, he ran for Congress as a Democrat. Guess what? He didn't have very nice things to say about Trump. He was running as a Democrat. So they're all upset at the things that he said as a candidate. He ended up finishing second. That's not good enough in politics. And so he got his job back at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And he kept on with this big white collar case, which alleges that this fellow, I think his name is Andy Weidenhorn. Right. He's the head of Fatburger, Andy Weidenhorn. I think I'm saying that right. That he had a previous felony conviction. Then he's raided down here running Fatburger. Allegedly, he has a gun, which a felon is not allowed to have a gun. And now they're going to, he chooses Trump's first U.S. attorney. His name is Nick Hanna. So this Fatburger guy picks Trump 1's U.S. attorney, who's now back in private practice, this Nick Hanna. He hires Nick Hanna, and that's who represents this Weidenhorn Fatburger guy in front of the U.S. Attorney's Office and this fellow who ran for Congress, who seems like a very efficient white-collar prosecutor who has the guy prosecuted. The IRS in a press release called this fellow a serial tax cheat. That's their editorialization, but that's not usual that the IRS puts out a press release to call a suspect in a case a serial tax cheat. And now this new U.S. attorney, that he also made substantial campaign contributions, this Weidenhorn did, to Trump. And now Trump 1's U.S. attorney has convinced Trump 2's U.S. attorney, this no-bill Asali, to dismiss the case without prejudice. They don't have an interest in this case, Mark, to hold a sort of Damocles over the head of this guy. And you might say, well, when come the restoration in 3.5 years, if the restoration of the rule of law is coming back in 3.5 years, they could still go after this fellow and just, take him to trial on the case that they have indicted and that's ready to go. But that's so unlikely. So basically, the Fatburger guy is going to walk. Allegedly charges that he underpaid the IRS over $45 million, being a convicted felon in an earlier case. Yeah, and they're also going to dismiss the felon in possession of the firearm, which I don't understand.
The MO was that again the DOJ fired the career prosecutor, the career federal prosecutor, to get that done. The
only thing I'm saying about that is that some of these are completely out of left field. These firings. This one you could have predicted because he was a Democratic candidate for Congress. you know, again, if you had a crystal ball that went backwards, which you don't have in life, if you had, you know, perfect recall probably when Trump won, that case should have been handed off to a different assistant U.S. attorney so that they couldn't make this argument. But yeah, Mark, I mean, yes, and you look at one after another, each one may have a slight anomaly, but the pattern is overwhelmingly clear.
Exactly. And then so it brings me to what is one of the greatest fears with a rising autocrat and the Trumpian flex that is all about recrimination and revenge. What are they doing with Boasberg? Now, Boasberg, this judge, is the U.S. District Court judge who has been in the back and forth with the Trump administration over the deportations to Venezuela and you know, those who ended up, the Venezuelan men in El Salvador. So the DOJ is now going after him. They issue a complaint, quote, making improper public comments about President Trump and his administration. In this complaint, they cite Boasberg's attendance at a judicial conference of the United States in which the judge warned that the Trump administration could, quote, disregard rulings of federal courts and trigger a, quote, constitutional crisis. They also, again, talk about his handling involving the alleged members of the Venezuelan gang, the Tren de Aragua, and the ones who were flown to that Salvadoran prison. So they're going after Boasberg, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this because this, again, seems of a kind, going up against those judges who dare to stray and dare to, in any way, go up against this administration with even a critical word.
Well, Mark, this is how they try to cower judges in third world countries, in authoritarian countries. The good news is it won't work in America. This is absolutely stupid garbage. It's performative. This investigation of this judge is going to go nowhere. As people may remember, he's Kavanaugh's big buddy from Yale. He's totally middle of the road. He's not some flaming leftist as they tried to portray him. And he's actually the chief judge of the district court in Washington, D.C., which my judge had the honor of being the chief judge down there, too. So it's a very important post that he has. It's one that has life tenure. The review of him, because he is the chief judge, would be by the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, who, for people who like this sort of thing, is an Obama appointee, brilliant fellow. And what normally happens with these, and what's going to happen with Boasberg's, is it's going to go nowhere. Because there's no there. If you don't like a judge's ruling, first of all, you have appeals. We allow appeals in this country. And as we can see on your show, week after week, appeals courts reverse lower courts. That's what you do. You don't go crying off to the, you know, judicial performance committee if you don't like a judge's ruling. You make your record and then you appeal. And if you're in the right, you ought to win. That doesn't always happen. You know, no system is perfect, but we have a system to deal with judges who make errors. This judge, number one, didn't make any error. He's the turn the planes around judge. He's the one where the plane hasn't even left yet. It looks like it left. This is with him ordering it that it not go. This is the one where the government said that, oh, well, it was only an oral order. We didn't think an oral order had any effect. Like when a federal judge tells you from the bench, do not do such and such. Do you understand my order? That you can disregard it because you can wait for 3 hours later for the written version of it. Because, you know, in that situation, it could be 2 weeks later that you get the written order. If that were really the law, that would be absurd. So all of this case, and then they didn't bring him back. This is the Abrego Garcia, that case too. They didn't bring the people back from El Salvador, and they finally brought him back. That's a whole other fraught story. What he said, by the way, doesn't even appear to have been a public comment. It was said at a judicial conference and among judges, which was not meant to be public. Somebody must have had a wire, maybe some right-wing staffer who was there, listened to the conversation, heard what he was saying to the judicial conference because one of the judge's clerks or interns or somebody was there and maybe was having a tape recorder. So supposedly there's a tape of him saying something. So it's not even public. And on top of that, it's not misconduct. He says Trump could be in violation, could be planning to violate judicial orders, which not only is not an impermissible comment, it seemed to be right on and true. Okay. And if he were to violate orders of judges, that would be a constitutional crisis. Also true, he could violate judicial orders, and if he did, that would be a constitutional crisis. So it wasn't public, it wasn't misconduct, it's going nowhere, but it shows, right, a kind of performative get back at you. And it also shows that this crowd that's in there right now, Mark, they have no sense of the long term. None of them, I guess, plan to be there in 4 years. Boasberg will still be a judge. Those judges that they sued in Maryland as the entire bench in Maryland, those judges will all still be judges. It is so self-destructive. It's just, I don't know. I mean, does Bondi not intend to be a lawyer afterwards? I mean, you look at the comments that Asadi made about the bench, about the federal judges in our district. He said they're left-wingers. The U.S. Attorney's Office is full of left-leaning judges. I wish they'd lean left on some of my cases. You know, I'm a working lawyer. I'm a working lawyer. A little bit more compassion for my clients would be very well taken. It is about these left-leaning, and then he said bad things about the FBI, which is just astonishing. They need to change their culture. What's wrong with the FBI's culture, Mark? I don't get it at all.
Well, I mean, the rhetoric. I mean, the two things. First of all, the rhetoric. It's just one of flame throwing. I mean, it's these blowtorch rhetorical moments that all of these people are part of, and it's become the hymnal from which they all sing. But the other thing is that they're only playing for the moment. I mean, I don't think they have that time horizon that you do. You know, they don't have a sense of, I mean, they are reshaping America, David Katz. I know I have a very grim view of things, and you have a very bright view of the future because you operate in a system, the judicial system, which we're all really counting on in ways that are even more amplified, I'd suggest, or amplified more, might be the way to put it, by the fact that these other institutions that we were counting on are going away. I mean, Congress evaporates, any kind of regulatory structure on finance, on the economy, on all of the things that would maybe check corruption, frankly, that's all evaporating. So we count on the judicial system, and that's why we turn to you, and you operate within a judicial system that seems to still have retained some semblance of order. But I'd suggest that a lot of the things that they're doing, again, they're not on the same time horizon. They don't see it as, oh, eventually I might have to deal with the judicial system after I'm out of office, and I might have to answer for what I do. And I also think that on some level, they feel as though we're shaping the judicial system now in a way it hasn't been shaped before, and I will be protected before I leave office.
Well, I think one reason that it's concerning, you know, I don't want to make this, you know, about me, but I've been able, without joining like a large firm, having a very small practice, you know, I've been able to attract clients who think, you know, this guy has a lot of talent in federal court, and his talent will out. No matter what political party the judge is from, and no matter what political party is controlling the U.S. Attorney's Office. But you look at these things that are happening. You know, you look at, you know, one of my really big clients said, you know, I really want to hire you, but maybe I should just try to pay the senator in my state. And I said, this is America. This is America. You can flush your money down the toilet. You can pay the senator in your state, but you need to have the best lawyer you can have in federal court who knows, you know, the law and the procedures in federal court. Well, I mean, what are these cases telling? What are these cases teaching? You know, one other story, I had a fellow from abroad. This has to be 15 years ago. And I think at that time he paid me $25,000. And about a week later, he says, have you spoken to the judge? And I said, no, the hearing's in another 2 weeks. A week later, he says to me, have you spoken to the judge? I said, no, I'm in the library, you know. And he says, oh, you're very smart. You talk to the judge in the library. So, you know, there's people from abroad who just cannot.
I'm sorry to laugh, but you're right. They just assume that it's a system of corruption.
What does America look like now? Look at the cases that we're just talking about. What does America look like? What is our system of justice? And, you know, people say we're exaggerating it too much. No, no, no. People come to this country because of the rule of law. They invest trillions of dollars in this country because of the rule of law. And the idea that, you know, your opponent can just, you know, can exert such political influence, including on the justice system. That's one reason people don't want to invest in a lot of countries where it looks like you can make money, because you know that you're going to go into a real swamp, not the one that Trump has talked about all these years, and then he's swampier than anyone. But, you know, you don't want to be in that kind of a swamp. So on a very personal level, I hope it goes back to where everybody just wants to hire the very best attorney they can find who knows the facts and the law, and that's the way to get the best result in federal court. But what does the Adams case teach? What does this latest case in LA teach? What lessons are people deriving from them?
Yeah, I mean, the system is being corrupted. All right, I'll let you go, but not before you answer the question from Robert, who writes in. We have an email address, themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Here's a question. Here's a question for David Katz. This is an interesting non-political question, Robert says. There is a rumor that astronomer CEO Andy Byron, who was caught at that Coldplay concert, you'll remember, might sue Coldplay for this Jumbotron incident. If he did sue David Katz, would he have a case? I would think, I'm not done, David Katz. Let me finish Robert's letter. I would think, he goes on, it's not long, but it's...
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Okay, let me finish, please. I would think, given that he should have no expectation of privacy, Robert is suggesting, that he could not sue based on a violation of his privacy. But maybe there is another valid angle that he could pursue that would go up against the kiss cam and maybe get rid of the kiss cam going forward. He said, again, this is just a rumor. Please ask David Katz this legal question. Now, sir, what do you say?
Well, so this wouldn't be an instantaneous stump the Katz. You were nice enough to send me Robert's question. I thought about it. It is a public place. So having your picture taken in a stadium, I just don't see it. Put on the Jumbotron, I just don't see it. I think if he really hires a lawyer and the lawyer wants to research this case, I think they would go back and look at what Coldplay has done before and see, I know Coldplay has a song called Yellow, and during Yellow, it's romantic, says, I love you. And that's when they do the kiss cam. And if they've done the kiss cam at prior ones and things like that have happened, if this is his line whenever someone shirks away from the camera, if this is the front man for Coldplay, I don't know his name.
Sure.
If this is the thing, and he's done this before, and he's had any kind of untoward incident, but it just didn't get this widely publicized, that might be something that a Coldplay guy knew that he was potentially inflicting emotional distress. Because even though they shouldn't be doing that, if you're going around inflicting emotional distress on people, they might settle this case. But unless there's some pattern of ridiculing people by the Coldplay, because the Coldplay guy says when they shy away from the kissing on the camera, he says something like, are those folks having an affair or are they just shy? If he said that at 3 or 4 other concerts before that during the kiss cam, and something untoward happened after that, or somebody got really upset after that, but I just see this one as going nowhere.
Several people have said that on the back of the ticket, in the stub of the ticket, of course, it's all digital now, but anyway, somewhere in the terms and conditions, there's just the understanding that you may be photographed, et cetera. That may be as well, huh, David Katz?
That may be an adhesion contract, like those things that used to be on the back of the parking tickets when you parked at certain places. I don't think that if he otherwise had a good claim that he waived it or forfeited by not grousing about his ticket or by buying a ticket. Anyway, the baseball ticket used to say that you assume the risk of getting hit by a ball, but the people who got hit by the ball and really hurt, the baseball teams would defend on the fact that, assumption of the risk. And I think they ended up, as the courts, got more, I think, sophisticated and seeing some poor person who was terribly disabled by being hit by a ball, they started putting up nets, right, in the area where the batted balls were really likely to hurt somebody, and not relying on.
But just to be clear, in the baseball parallel that you suggest, baseball did not settle. They pointed to the back of the ticket.
They pointed to the back of the ticket, and I think they still point to the back of the ticket. But the better part of valor was to put up those nets. So
I understand that it changed the way they did things, but they didn't have to pay any kind of settlement. The point is that they as a result of the legal action or perhaps the complaints, they put up those safety nets, et cetera, but they didn't actually pay out. I'm getting to the reason I asked the question is I'm getting to the Coldplay thing by saying you can get rid of the kiss cam or whatever because you just don't want this kind of hassle anymore. But the reality is they're not going to settle with these people because of the understanding, the implicit understanding or explicit understanding if it's in the terms and conditions.
Also, it's really different to have a plaintiff who's been terribly injured by a batted ball, right? this is never going to have the sympathy of a jury. You know, Coldplay in the stadium are never going to shirk. You know, they're not going to shirk from this case. So I love when people send in their questions. Just give me a little heads up.
It's the Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. You can write in if you've got questions for David Katz. They can be politically related. You know, I always can use the help. So I really do appreciate it.
Well, you know, Mark, I'm your legal commentator, but News Nation now has me on like most weekends now, and they call me a Democratic strategist, which I think that developed because their other guest is a Republican strategist, and they figured, well, if we want to be fair and they really do want to be fair and balanced, News Nation. And so they figure if they have a Republican strategist, they should have a Democratic strategist. So, we were talking
congratulations
about
on your new title then. Yeah.
Trump slumping in the polls. And we're on usually about 4 or in the afternoon Pacific time, about 4 or 5 o'clock Saturday.
On the weekends. Well, you know, all I have to, well, then if I can just mention this because you're now this big, big dude who's the Democratic strategist or whatever they call you there, I guess the Democratic strategist. I would say this to you Democratic strategists and to everybody who wants the hopium of Trump of sagging in the polls. I'd look at your own polls. Look at the Democrats' polls. It's brutal. It makes Trump look like Jesus Christ. The Democrats do not have the corresponding buoy that you might expect with this mess that Trump has created. They still don't poll very well. Now, I'd love to talk to you about this more, but I guess what I'm saying is just because Trump is sagging doesn't mean when the moment comes that voters are going to vote out the GOP and vote in the Dems. I think it's going to be a very hard fought midterm. And I didn't even get to the redistricting. I'm really, did I? I don't even think I asked you about that. I really feel bad that I've let it go this long. Go ahead.
2 things, Mark. Sagging in the polls is a lot better than soaring in the polls.
Yeah,
and
that's
number
true.
2,
that's true.
A lot of it's motivation for midterms. The problem with the midterms is that people are not as motivated as they are in the presidential race, and Democrats are extremely motivated. All the polls show that the excitement to go vote and to go vote, you know, the Democrats in the midterms is much greater than the Republicans don't have that enthusiasm. And so I think the midterms are going to be okay. On the redistricting, we cannot have unilateral disarmament. If Texas is going to play this game, we have to play this game. To just sit there and say, oh, I don't know what happened. We took the high road and now the Republicans still control the House like they do the rest of government. We still control the House in a year and a half by 2 or 3 votes, because when they redistricted Texas, we didn't redistrict California, or New York didn't redistrict California. That would be unilateral disarmament. That would be the end of the Democratic Party, showing that it's not willing to fight.
Exactly. So glad you touch on it. And by the way, just on the legal side, they are suing over the redistricting as well. And they're suing and they'll sue in a bunch of different states. I mean, this is a real legal effort. And as you say, it has to be matched by a redistricting commitment that is in Democratic states the same way it is in Republicans. I think that's the only way to play ball now.
Mark, California can put it right back if Texas puts it right back. This is a total reciprocal thing. So if Texas backs down now, California will back down. If Texas does this, we'll do it. And then in 2 years, if we see it's really unwieldy, and if Texas sees it's unwieldy, that their game's not working, and they back down, we'll back down. There's also, by the way, well, let's leave it there. Anyway, okay. Great to be with you, Mark.
Great to be with you. Everybody else who has questions for Katz, put them in an email, send them to us at the show, and then we'll make sure he gets them. Okay, I think that's a better way to go with a greater coherence than just kind of throwing stuff at him now. The Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. David, so grateful for your time. Thank you so much. We'll watch for you on News Nation this weekend, and we'll see you here next Thursday. Thanks, pal.
Pleasure's mine. Take care.
David Katz, everybody. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you, everybody. I hope our signal has been stabilized. Has the signal been stabilized, Tony? You're my signal stabilization.
Yeah. I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
I think it's when you open up certain web pages, I think.
Certain web pages.
Everything is going
There's a lot of news
well.
sites because they have so many pop-ups and they're running video at the same time and all that. That's just...
Hate them. Just hate them. Just don't like it.
This is Mark Thompson.
Three sites in particular do that excessively.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do.
What can you tell us about the scene?
It's crazy, Larry.
Probably
They're
set
in
up
the
in the
video and the
options, too.
pop-ups. The pop-up videos are costing us, Larry.
What can you tell us about the scene?
What is it, Kim? We didn't get your news in. I know.
I just have one story on the way out.
All right. I guess I could play the theme music. If
No,
you want.
it's okay. I'll just
right.
tell you. I'll just tell you this little tidbit on
Well,
the way
I
out.
believe every element needs a production element.
No.
So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Kim has one thing she wants to get in, one news story before we say goodbye.
Yeah, Trump is planning to tear up part of the White House to build a new $200 million ballroom.
Oh.
I've never seen anything like it.
Wow.
It's going to be a 650-person ballroom installed where part of the reconstructed East Wing currently sits. The 200 mil will be furnished by Trump and other unnamed individuals. One wonders at what cost
Trump
is
isn't
that?
not
What
$1
kind of tit
it
for
will come
tat
from Trump.
cost is that coming in?
Yeah.
What do we have to give up, right? He's already chosen architects to lead this project, and they're going to put up they're going to put up renderings on the White House website very soon. And they say the East Wing is going to be modernized, that the necessary construction will take place, and we're getting a big old ballroom. So there you go.
Oh,
Fancy Nancy.
my gosh. It is unreal, man. This guy he has a plan. And he wants his gilded. Oh, there she is. This is Caroline Levitt holding up the
ballroom plans.
The ballroom plans.
I love Tesla.
Yeah. All right. Get that. Maybe turn that.
Well, you have all this extra money now with all the tech folks throwing cash at Trump. He's got to spend it somehow.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know if that's the money being used, but 200 million coming from Trump and other unnamed individuals.
He's working on a lot of stuff, Kim,
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan.
Yeah. Well, he's
Don't
working
they
on
already have a massive room for state dinners and such?
Oh, yeah. No, of course.
Why is this necessary?
Well, I mean, because the president wants it, Kim, and he wants to turn it into I don't know where your patriotism is, but.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should check your papers.
You should investigate me. Yeah.
How dare you even suggest.
That's right.
That, but it's pretty.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
All right. That's the Trump, will they call it the Donald J. Trump
I'm sure
ballroom,
they will slap his name on it. The
as long
Donald
as it has
J.
his
Trump
name on it.
Golden Ballroom. Yes.
There's stuff to make you laugh. There's stuff to make you cry. I know. Ballroom. He lives in 1938. It's true. Thank you, Ron. It's true. Ballroom. Right. You need all those Gilded Age people to be able to dance. Grenache says, with all the damage Trump and his administration are doing to this country, it's amazing the Dems can't find something to coalesce around and fight back with. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They do have to find the thing. Oftentimes the thing is the economy. So we'll see. I mean, these tariffs will and do have an effect on the economy, and I think things will change here in the next 6 months, but we'll see. A lot of what he's done as far as undercutting Medicaid and such, as we've talked about before, that doesn't kick in until after the midterms. Until after they've broken ground on the new ballroom. Here is Chaplain Fred. Hi, Mark, Kim, and Tony. Tony, I always love when Tony gets a quick shout.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. I still am so amazed at how we get distracted so easily from what Trump does. Why not focus on what we need to brace for impact economically? Trump takes everything personally. Yeah, of course he does. You're right. I don't know what you need to brace for impact economically, but this guy is running roughshod over an economy that was doing well. I know you're going to say, oh, look at the stock market. It is up. Exactly. This is, I think, the smoke and mirrors of what's happening right now. Again, see my remarks before. I really am waiting for the shoe to drop, and it will. It will drop. Debbie, Trump is such an extortionist. The $2 super chat. Thank you for that. And thank you, Chaplain Fred, as well. Yeah, I think he is. He's a strong man. He's a strong man, without question. And Luis always with something sarcastic to say. Let's see what Luis says. Mark, have some faith in the stable genius. Look at how well Trump University, Trump Airlines, Trump Vodka, Trump Steaks, etc. are doing. And didn't Rothman say we'd be fine? LOL. Thank you. Thank you, Louise. Yeah. B.A. Ware says, pathetic. The Daily Beast deleted an article on Thursday in which author Michael Wolff claimed convicted child predator Jeffrey Epstein was involved in President Donald Trump's introduction to Melania. Yeah, I'd heard that Epstein, they met at sort of Epstein's place or some party that Epstein had put together. I don't know.
And
But
that he introduced them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Interesting. Hurry up, says Wes, for the $5 super chat. I want the after party.
Oh, yeah. Well, it is Trivia Thursday, so you know.
What? Who am I to hold that up?
Exactly.
Here I am trying to give you some extra content, and I'm told to, to move along. It's tough when your own audience turns on you that way. I'm just
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
I don't know. Well, I've enjoyed our time together anyway. We've had some great conversations. The conversation with Katz was great. Tony will drop all of these conversations or those that we feel are most relevant in videos that will drop later today. And so you can check for that. A lot of Trump talk today. We also got into some other stuff, and I felt good about things myself. But all right, so
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
we are going to finish up after the great Shadow takes us out.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye and bye-bye.